Deep under the Pacific Ocean, a machine is moving through the dark. It weighs thousands of tons, but it leaves almost no trace. The United States Navy has spent billions of dollars trying to find hidden submarines. They put microphones on the ocean floor. They sent satellites into space. They dropped sensors all across the open sea. Every piece of that network was built for one single job: catching submarines before they slip away. Right now, that whole network is struggling to find one specific vessel, and so far, it cannot. China has launched the Type 096, a ballistic missile submarine that Pentagon officials are calling one of the most serious underwater challenges the United States has ever faced. That phrase carries a lot of weight. When military planners talk like that, it means the old rules no longer apply. The reason this vessel is so hard to find has nothing to do with speed or size. It comes down to something much more clever, and once you understand it, you will see why naval commanders around the world are worried about this machine. If you enjoy these deep dives, please take a second to hit the like button. It takes a lot of effort to research and make these videos, and your support keeps them coming. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. The story of how China got here is one of patience, smart engineering, and a drive to close a gap that once seemed impossible to close. In the next few minutes, you will see exactly how they built a submarine that can vanish in plain sight, and why that changes everything about who controls the ocean. A submarine that whispers. The Type 096 is the vessel at the center of this story. It is China's newest ballistic missile submarine. That means its main job is to carry nuclear weapons under the ocean and stay hidden for months at a time. China has had submarines like this for years. Their older model, the Type 094, could do the job, but it had one big problem. It made so much noise that American and Allied navies could track it from hundreds of miles away. Being loud underwater is the worst thing a submarine can be. Noise means someone can find you, and being found means you are in danger. The Type 096 fixes that problem completely. Defense researchers who study naval technology say this new vessel is much quieter than the Type 094. Some experts believe it may be getting close to the noise levels of American submarines, which have been the quietest in the world for decades. To understand how big that jump is, think about going from a jackhammer to a soft whisper in just one step of development. That kind of leap is almost unheard of in submarine building. But the quietness is only half the story. The Type 096 is also designed to carry a new missile that lets it reach much farther, and we will get to that missile soon because its range changes things just as much as the silence does. For now, the key thing to know is that China is not building just one of these. They are building a fleet. Multiple Type 096 submarines, each able to vanish into the deep ocean for long periods, create a totally different kind of challenge than a single vessel ever could. One submarine gives you a tool. A fleet gives you a permanent presence. That difference is exactly what has military planners in Washington rethinking their whole approach to the Pacific. The United States has always been the quietest kid in the room. Now someone else is whispering just as softly, and that changes the dynamic. But to really understand why this machine is such a big deal, you need to know the engineering tricks that make it almost impossible to hear. How to hide a giant. Water carries sound very well. In the ocean, sound travels about 4 times faster than it does through air, and it can go very long distances before it fades away. This is why navies have spent decades placing sensitive microphones, called hydrophones, all over the ocean floor. These devices can pick up the faint hum of a propeller, the whine of a turbine, or the steady thumping of a pump from hundreds of miles away. Every piece of machinery inside a submarine creates vibrations. Engines spin, cooling systems push water around, and generators make electricity. Each of those processes creates tiny movements that pass through the steel hull and out into the water. If you can picture a tuning fork pressing against a metal plate, you can understand the basic problem. The vibration travels through the solid material and spreads out into the sea. The Type 096 solves this problem in 3 different ways. The first way involves separating the noisy machinery from the hull itself. Every pump, motor, and generator inside the submarine sits on special platforms that soak up vibration before it can travel through the steel. Think of these mounts as thick cushions placed between the machinery and the hull. The equipment still runs and still makes noise, but that noise stays trapped inside the submarine instead of leaking into the ocean. It is like jumping on a trampoline inside a house with thick walls. Your neighbors never hear a thing. The second technology involves the outer skin of the vessel. The entire outside of the Type 096 is believed to be covered in special rubber-like tiles. These tiles do one very specific thing. They soak up incoming sound waves instead of bouncing them back. When a surface ship or another submarine sends out a sonar ping, that ping travels through the water, hits the submarine, and normally bounces back as a clear echo. The rubber tiles on the Type 096 swallow that ping instead of returning it. The echo that makes it back to the sender is weak, messy, and very easy to miss. It is like shining a flashlight at a wall painted flat black instead of one painted glossy white. The black wall takes in the light, and almost nothing comes back. The third technology is maybe the most interesting. Reports say the Type 096 uses a pump jet propulsion system instead of old-style propeller blades. Regular propellers spin fast through the water, and as they do, they create thousands of tiny bubbles. When those bubbles pop, they make a sharp crackling sound. This is called cavitation, and it is one of the loudest things a submarine can do. A pump jet fixes this by pulling water into an enclosed tube and speeding it up inside, without letting fast-spinning blades touch open water. The result is a drive system that makes almost no cavitation noise, even at higher speeds. Think of it like the difference between a regular fan with spinning blades that you can hear from across the room and a quiet desk fan that you barely notice even when it is right next to you. The spinning blade fan moves air by cutting through it, which makes noise. The quiet fan moves air in a smoother way that keeps the sound down. Chinese engineers reportedly spent years getting each of these systems right on its own before putting them together. Isolating machinery takes very precise building, because even a small mistake can send vibration right back into the hull. The rubber tiles must be shaped and attached perfectly, because any gap would create a surface that bounces sound instead of taking it in. And the pump jet must be matched to the way water flows around the hull, because a poorly shaped tube can actually make more noise than it gets rid of. Getting all 3 right at the same time is what makes this submarine so hard to build, and so important now that China has done it. When you put all 3 technologies together, you get a submarine that can run at full power while making almost no sound that anyone can pick up. For 50 years, the United States had a near monopoly on this kind of deep silence. Their submarines could drift through the ocean without being found, giving them a huge edge. China studied that advantage carefully and put huge resources into catching up. The jump to the Type 096 is not luck. It is the result of years of careful engineering, but silence alone only matters if the submarine can actually do its job when it counts. And that brings us to the missile that sits inside its launch tubes. The JL-3 and the Second Strike. A submarine that carries nuclear weapons has one main job, and that job is to survive. In military strategy, there is an idea called a second strike weapon. The idea is simple but powerful. If 2 nations with nuclear weapons ever got into a terrible conflict, The side that gets attacked first needs a way to strike back. Missile silos on land can be destroyed. Bombers on runways can be wiped out. But a submarine hiding deep in the ocean is almost impossible to find and almost impossible to destroy in a fast first attack. That submarine can wait patiently in the darkness, and if its homeland is attacked, it can launch its own weapons. This is the ultimate backup plan. It makes sure that no matter what happens on land, the ability to strike back still exists. The Type 096 is built to be exactly that kind of backup for China, but the missile it carries makes it much more powerful than anything China has used before. The new missile is called the JL-3, and its estimated range is about 10,000 kilometers. To understand why that number matters so much, you have to look at the problem China faced with its older submarines. Older Chinese missile subs had to travel far into the Pacific Ocean to get close enough to hit key targets. Those travel paths were easy to predict, and the United States and its allies had placed listening systems along those routes years ago. It was like knowing exactly which road a car had to drive on and setting up cameras on every single lane. The older missiles simply did not have the range to reach faraway targets from safer waters. The JL-3 removes that limit. With a range of 10,000 kilometers, the submarine can launch from waters very close to the Chinese coast, areas that are heavily guarded by Chinese surface ships and aircraft. The missile does the traveling instead of the submarine. Think of it as the difference between a person who has to sneak across enemy ground to get close, and a person with a tool so accurate that they can hit the target from miles away while staying safely hidden. The JL-3 gives the Type 096 that kind of reach. The vessel can stay in protected waters and still pose a threat to targets on the other side of the world. Understanding how second strike works helps explain why this matters so much. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union built large fleets of ballistic missile submarines for this exact purpose. The logic was that if either side launched a surprise attack, the other side's submarines would still be out there, hidden and ready to respond. That shared ability is widely credited with keeping the two superpowers from fighting each other directly. Neither side could be sure they would escape a response, so neither side was willing to take the risk. China has wanted that same guarantee for a long time. For decades, the United States has relied on its Ohio-class submarines for this purpose. Those vessels are very quiet and carry enough firepower to be taken seriously by any nation on Earth. Russia operates the Borei class, which is also highly advanced. China studied both programs closely and worked steadily to close the gap. The Type 096 removes the weakness that hurt earlier boats. It can stay quiet and stay close to home, making it a real second strike weapon. China now has a vessel that can truly vanish, and that changes the balance in the Pacific in ways that are still being worked out. The Pentagon has seen this shift, and the response has been fast, costly, and wide-reaching. A new race underwater. When the United States military spots a new challenge, the response usually involves three things: technology, partnerships, and money. All three are moving right now. The first part of the response is technology. The United States is pouring money into a new wave of unmanned underwater drones. These are submarines that operate on their own, patrolling the ocean for weeks or months without a crew. They do not need food, sleep, or air. They can travel huge distances, listening for anything unusual, and send their findings back to command centers. The plan is to create a web of these drones so thick that the Pacific Ocean becomes much harder to hide in. Instead of relying only on cables fixed to the seafloor, the Navy would have hundreds of mobile sensors sweeping the waters. Think of it like a neighborhood watch program, but instead of neighbors walking the streets with flashlights, you have robots swimming through the ocean with listening devices. The more robots you have out there, the harder it is for anyone to sneak past without being noticed. The challenge of finding a submarine as quiet as the Type 096 cannot be overstated. Sound moves through seawater in complicated ways, bouncing off layers of different temperature and pressure. A submarine commander who understands these layers can hide beneath them, using the ocean itself as a shield. American sonar operators train for years to read the faint signals that might reveal a hidden vessel. But as submarines get quieter, those signals get fainter and harder to tell apart from natural ocean noise. The difference between being found and staying hidden is measured in decibels, and every decibel of quietness means extra miles of hiding space. The second part is partnerships. The Pacific is simply too big for any one nation to watch alone. The United States has been strengthening its ties with Australia, Japan, and South Korea, all of which have strong navies. By sharing tracking data across several countries, the net gets tighter. A submarine that slips past one country's sensors might get caught by another's. The clearest example of this teamwork is the AUKUS partnership, which brings together Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Through this deal, Australia is set to get nuclear-powered submarines, which would greatly increase the number of advanced submarines in the region. More Allied submarines in the water means more ears listening for vessels like the Type 096. The third part is pushing American submarine technology forward. The United States currently runs the Virginia-class submarines, which are among the best in the world. But the Navy is already working on its next generation of submarines, designed to be even quieter and more capable. The goal is to keep the edge that the United States has held for decades. But there is a hard truth that every military expert understands. When a new capability shows up, building a response takes years. You cannot just flip a switch and make a new detection system appear. Research takes time. Testing takes time. Putting things into action takes time. In the gap between when a challenge appears and when a response is ready, uncertainty fills the space. The Pentagon has to plan for the worst case. They have to assume the Type 096 is as quiet as the estimates say, and that the JL-3 missile works as well as advertised. They have to treat this vessel as a real, immediate challenge. That is why the talks in Washington right now are so serious. Budgets are being shifted and priorities are being changed. The Pacific Ocean is not just a body of water. It is the main shipping route for the entire world economy. Trillions of dollars in goods cross it every single year. The country that can control what happens beneath its surface holds a huge advantage. For 70 years, the United States Navy has been the dominant maritime force in the Pacific. Their submarines could go anywhere, listen to anyone, and stay hidden. The Type 096 means that era of total dominance is coming to a close. American forces can no longer assume they are the only hidden players in the water. They have to be more careful, more thorough, and more thoughtful. Every sailor in the Pacific now has to think about the fact that a Chinese submarine might be nearby, silent and invisible. That awareness alone changes how people act. It forces respect. It demands caution. The United States is not standing still, but neither is China, and the deeper truth about this submarine goes beyond any single military competition. The invisible wall. There is an idea at the heart of all this military technology that most people never think about. The most powerful weapons in the world are not built to be used. They are built to make sure they never have to be. This idea is called deterrence. It works through simple logic. If two sides both know that attacking the other will lead to a crushing response, neither side attacks. The weapon sits in its silo, or in its launch tube, or deep under the ocean, and its mere existence keeps the peace. A submarine carrying nuclear missiles is the purest form of this idea. Everyone knows it is out there, somewhere, hidden and ready. That knowledge makes nations think carefully before doing anything that could lead to disaster. China's investment in the Type 096 is, at its heart, an investment in this idea. For years, China's underwater backup plan was uncertain. In a crisis, there was a real question about whether their submarines would survive long enough to matter. The Type 096 removes that question. It tells every other nation that China has a weapon that cannot be easily found or destroyed. That message changes how other countries act. When one nation builds something that is very hard to counter, other nations have to adjust. They spend more on their own defense. They strengthen their partnerships. They rethink their foreign policy. These changes spread outward and touch everything. Defense budgets grow, which affects how much money is left for schools, roads, and healthcare. Alliances grow stronger or weaker depending on who feels safe and who does not. The whole system of relationships between nations quietly reshapes itself around the new reality. This shift matters even for people who have no connection to the military. When nations change their defense priorities, the effects flow into the broader economy. Trade routes may shift as nations try to protect their commercial shipping. Diplomatic relationships that seemed solid for years may change as countries rethink where their security interests lie. Even the prices of everyday goods can be affected when the strategic environment changes, because shipping costs and insurance rates respond to risks on the oceans. The ripples from a single submarine program can reach much further than most people imagine. China's submarine program is a clear signal that its military plans are serious and long-term. This is not a quick project or a temporary push. It is the result of decades of steady investment, research, and learning. The Type 096 is the strongest proof yet that China plans to remain a major naval power for a very long time. For countries in the Pacific region, this shift is already reshaping the landscape. Naval exercises are being updated, port agreements are being renegotiated, alliance commitments are being reviewed. Nations that previously stayed out of naval competition are now being pushed to choose partners and invest in tools they had not focused on before. The ocean is not just salt water. It is the stage for some of the most important strategic competition on Earth, playing out silently, far from the headlines. The Type 096 has made that competition more intense than it has been in decades. This vessel is not the end of the story. It is the opening page of a new chapter, one being written right now in the cold and silent depths of the Pacific. The world is entering a phase where silence is power, and the ability to vanish beneath the waves is just as important as the ability to strike. Nations that invest in underwater technology today will hold advantages that last for generations. Nations that fall behind will face hard choices when the decisions that shape the next 50 years are made. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: the ocean just became a much more complicated place. If you found this video interesting, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next. Turn on notifications because we have more deep dives into the technology shaping our world. And tell me in the comments, do you think underwater competition between major powers makes the world more stable or less? I want to know what you think.